is day 125 of 365 days of remembering. Trina right here. I'm so happy to be here. And today I want to talk about some cool things like usual. I want to talk about how during this time of an amplification of our expansion, an amplification of our, I guess it's like a choosing energy that I'm really feeling. I'm really feeling like as a collective, we're being called to make some decisions, to be conscious and making some choices about how we want to live, how we want to feel, how we want to flow, what beliefs we're going to continue to propagate in our life. What is the paradigm that we want to live in, and how is it going to then be filtered down into an experience that we could have that can take us to more and more expansion, to more and more understanding. And right now there's just so much going on in terms of the state of the world. What does it mean? There's all these conspiracy theories, some of which sound less like a conspiracy and more like plausible, to then this idea that as spiritual beings really appeals to us, that this is a great time of awakening. And I've been playing with the idea that we as a collection of souls agreed that at some certain key points there would be an up-leveling, that the entire consciousness would be upgraded, so to speak. And when that happens, there needs to be something to interrupt or disrupt the kind of momentum that we have going on to make those changes possible and plausible. And so what is going on in the state of the world with the virus, with the lockdown, with staying at home, with this, which is sort of like this thing that seems off, but yet is a call to come home to ourselves, is actually representative of that energetic upgrade. And so as I dive into things like the conspiracies, do I really want to go down that path, or do I want to stay centered in the only truth that I know? And I think that's part of what we're being called to do, is like, it's almost like a large level collective test, so to speak. Like, can I stand in the space of knowing I'm infinite? Can I stand in the space of knowing I'm invincible? Like, I will stand here right on this camera and say, like, I am not going to get that virus. I'm not even afraid of it. And it has nothing to do with that I believe it's not real or it's real or any of those things, or even about my immunity. My truth is that what is a germ? What is a virus? Where did all the knowledge and understanding of all of that come from, except from being created through thought? Because everything is created through thought. So a virus, a germ, an illness, an offness, any emotion, any thought is really just a creation from a perspective that we've chosen to embody in that moment. And because there's like these, I think Bentino Massaro mentioned it on his last session 3 of his enlightenment retreat, which is happening right now. I invite you to check it out if you haven't. I'll post the link in my comments below this video. Part of what he said is that as a collective, we have agreed to things. We've agreed to establish meaning attached to different things. And guess what happens when large numbers of people, beings, agree to something? Then it creates momentum. So that's what we have going on here. So there's perceptual momentums that then take us. So a higher propensity of thoughts or vibrations circle around different things, kind of creating little vortices of their own. And when you enter into it or have like-minded thoughts with it, it just takes you. But I do think, because this is my experience, and I'm guessing that Bentino might agree if I could talk to him about it, that there is a level that we can reach within ourselves where we start to understand that our thoughts aren't real, and we pattern disrupt the thoughts taking us. So even though an off thought might arise, I feel really conscious in what I'm going to do with them. And that could just be, I could be deluding myself. That is possible and true, because there is lots of delusion going on and lots of illusions and all kinds of things. But I do feel conscious. I do feel like maybe I'm not completely able to step away from all of it and to just be like free. I mean, I think free in the sense of like not referencing any aspect of the frameworks that exist around me. That's my goal. That's where I want to go, I think. And yet I don't know that I could do that now. But what I can do is I can choose the story, the framework that fits the best with how I want to live my life and what I want to be the embodied representation of, which is I am source energy first and foremost. I'm source energy expressing through a body. The body isn't me. The character that I call myself isn't me. The roles that I partake in this as that character, like her role descriptions, mother, wife, friend, sharer of insights, whatever you want to call me, daughter, sister, being, person, all those things, even spiritual being, even spiritually conscious being, ultimately that is not who I am, because I am just the pure energy, which is everything, anything, and nothing all simultaneously. And so how would I then embody this? And what would my source embodied self want to then play out loud as a person in response to this experience that's happening, this collective momentum that's going on about some of these things? And I do feel like I am able to be conscious about where I want to stand with that, where I want to sit with it, and what I want to promote as my experience. Because remember that Abraham Hicks has said over and over and over, no one can insert into your reality. You create your reality. You literally create all of your reality. And though sometimes I think they minimize it by saying it's simply about us reaching for a desire and fulfilling and reaching and fulfilling and reaching and fulfilling over and over, I think my soul is also on a journey. And so my soul expansion might take me to things that don't always feel like the thing that I would choose or the thing that I would desire, depending upon which reference point I am looking at it from. If I'm looking at it through the eyes of my ego or my character, then it might seem off, but as seen through the eyes of my soul, it seems perfect. So where I stand right now, I want to tell the stories like the story that as a collective consciousness, we agreed at this particular time, at the beginning of 2020, to experience an up-leveling. And the way I'm viewing it is this up-leveling is going to happen, and those beings that aren't conscious about knowing that they're choosing it are going to be taken too. And there's certain things that are just going to start to shift. Like more information and transparency is going to start happening, and there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do about it. It's going to be like the old pattern of just being deceitful or not telling the truth or trying to co-opt people, or even just for the sake of capitalism, trying to get people to buy your product or buy your service or buy your thing at the grocery store. Like all the things that we have created within lack and limitation and the matrix that don't serve us, in the sense of like, we'll put people's life at risk over the way we eat. We'll choose immediate gratification over long-term happiness, sustainability, health, vitality, even though none of those things are really real, because the food's not real and the illnesses aren't real and our bodies aren't real. But we've created such a convoluted story about it that it's time, as the vibration starts to raise and as the consciousness starts to shift, that those things are going to become more and more evident. And many, many more of us that have been practicing this for a while are literally going to become invincible. It's like those things are just going to bounce off us. We're going to stop caring what the rest of them think about us. We're going to feel solid in the knowing that we're source energy embodied. And we're going to really embody that. We're going to realize that we're self-sourced, that we have all the things that we could ever need inside of ourselves connected to God, to source, to all that is, that's going to keep us in that space. And there's nothing outside that I need to feel that. The outside will match that strong strength of feeling. That self-sourcing that happens inside will then be this feedback loop that I create on my own. And so it doesn't matter what the thing is outside of me. That's the power. That's the control. That's the only place that I get to choose how I want to feel. And so, because it is a slippery slope, and if we decide to go down some of those other paths, we just have to be conscious and aware that we are creating life into being. We are creating our own life into being by where we put our attention. And it might sound fun to be in a sci-fi movie where there's like some matrixy, like literally, I mean the movie, like the Matrix, some control factors going on, and you want to play that out, have at it. I mean, there's infinite choices to choose. Just be conscious, since you're a spiritually conscious being, since you've chosen to be on the spiritual path, just be conscious about what you're choosing. Be conscious about what you want for your life, for the world you live in, for the world that if you have children, or the children of this current paradigm, this current world, are going to inherit from us. What do we want that to look like? And then what is it that we can do leaning into it? And of course, I think that standing in the space of how can I be the biggest expression of source? How can I embody it? And then how can I express it? And I hold up Bentino because he is one of those examples. And I just don't know that many people that live their life like that, that live, as he said, from into infinite intelligence, from sort of getting out of his own way and giving his life to that. And of course, we all know it's not like he's not actioning his life. His life is framed by this enlightened civilization by 2035. That's part of the game he wants to play. That's part of the journey that his soul wants to take. And so now all the action he takes, all the things that go through him, all the ways that he's directed by that infinite intelligence are literally to take him to that realization within himself. What a cool overarching desire to have for your life. And so I want something big like that. I want my life to stand for something If I've come here and I chose to be in a physical body to don this sort of sense of limitation, I may as well be able to bust out of it and show that it's plausible and possible, not only for my children's sake, but for anyone in the world that's looking, that me, just this like middle-aged woman that's had an interesting life experience, life full of many, many different experiences, has all been sort of conspiring to take me to this now standing in place of saying, I can see how my life was an example of this desire deep within me to shift to the paradigm of source, to shift to the knowing of who I am, and to embody that and live from it. And believe me, for 3 days now, I've been holding this, and there is a lot of momentum. You know, I just don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like you can feel sometimes the pull of that delusion, pulling you back, holding you back. I have this strange experience where sometimes things come out of my mouth and I don't even feel like where I'm focused from is actually what's coming through my mouth. Like I just don't. And I've been wondering about whether there's some parts of that are, when you surrender and when you let go of that control, then all the other beings that you're interacting with, they are plucking and pulling out various different aspects of me, versions of me, to show up to help them do the work that they're doing. And what happens is I feel bad about it. Sometimes I have this resistance, like, why did I say that? Or why did I say it that way? Specifically with my kids. And so I'm working on just like not doing that and just being okay with whatever it is that wants to flow through me. Just because infinite intelligence is flowing through us, I think there's a myth out there that believes it's all going to be love and kumbaya and rainbows and unicorns, when actually what we all agreed to is being evolved as a soul to experience the highest expansion that our soul can take us. And literally, my kids wouldn't have chosen me if they weren't on board for some big time expansion, because that's why I'm here and that's what I'm doing. So I have to trust that whatever is being asked of me, whatever is flowing through me, is the perfect thing that needs to happen in that perfect moment. At the same time, time to fully embody my truth, because I have known that my truth has always been that I'm an infinite being of love and light, that I am unchangeable, unconditional. And yet I've hesitated in many different times, had resistance to fully embodying that, because I guess a little bit of a fear of being not understood or misunderstood, or actually triggering people and not liking. I don't like that feeling of conflict, but who is it that doesn't like that? And that's my surrender work to do. So that's what I'm going to start doing. So I encourage you during this time to figure out for yourself, if it feels good, how you want to flow. What do you want your life to look like? What do you want to be the embodiment of? How is the paradigm that you choose to live within, the framework you choose to live within, or not, because maybe you've reached a place where you can just completely step out of it and it's irrelevant, but how does all of that come together for you? And what are you going to stand for, not in a pushing against way, but just as an embodied way, as an embodied light of like, I stand as the representation of this. What is that for you? And what does it look like? And then what does it look like on a day-to-day lived out basis in the minuscule details of our life playing out as this character? How do we bring more blending into those two things? And I will keep you posted as I continue navigating that. If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel so you can catch more of my videos as I navigate this journey of becoming the embodiment of source energy. Yay! So I will talk to you again soon.